for example, and the community then was desperate many administrations ago to get something like this in place. I think it's been a long time coming. Just to sit down and have that dialogue and start assessing what are our needs, our plans, our assets. I see Josh in the audience. I know he's been very helpful in this, and it's been a negotiation, if you will, between many groups. I've also heard from Texas Organizing Project yesterday, and I don't think that they're necessarily opposed to it in principle. I think what they want is just more inclusion. So we always have to make sure, as Councilmember Stardick said, that we see who's at the table, but also who's not, and who we might be missing. And not everybody responds to the traditional means of communication or even social media. We've got to be more proactive and reach out to other voices as well and make sure they're at the table. With that said, I think just to be realistic, it's just a general plan. It's meant to just kind of be truly a starting point to start building that foundation up. And unfortunately, as this administration comes to a close, that the next one could pick it up. They have a clear starting point and can then build a more robust plan. And the goal, in my eyes, should be that it outlives every administration, that it truly be a community-based plan, so that every administration comes in at least knows in real time what some of the priorities and discussions and dialogues have been in the community, and it's all gathered in one place. We have a lot of different plans spread throughout the city. This will be a place, a platform, if you will, where folks can come together for stronger dialogue, input, feedback, that there could be just, again, robust discussion. So I'm very supportive of this. I think it's in the right place, and I'm proud to be able to take a role in this. And Mayor, congratulations to you for bringing it forward in your administration. I think it's a big step that hasn't been achieved by any other administration to do. So well done.
Councilmember, now the work plan, that's going to be a heavy lift. Getting everybody on board on that one. Councilmember Kubash.
Mayor, I'd like to know if Councilmember Bradford's amendment goes far enough to encourage the citizens to review the governance process of our city. May I ask him that question?
Councilmember Bradford, do you wish to respond?
Would you clarify your question?
Well, you know, this doesn't look like you had pro-offered last week. And I feel like you're going to support this. Do you believe it goes far enough to encourage the citizens to look at charter review and other regulations in the city?
I think it is a first step. I support the plan out of respect for all the work that many stakeholder group representatives have put into it up to this point. The amendment that we had a unanimous vote on, it does reference a review of the charter, and I think that's a step forward. If it's going to happen or not, I simply don't know, and there's nothing that's going to require, you know, such. But nonetheless, I think it's a step forward, and I try to be amicable. So that's what we are.
Well, thank you for the response. And Mayor, we had people come and testify that we could be saving as much as 11% of our budget if we had implemented a plan. And you know, I don't know if these numbers are just way out there. And of course, I think about our budget being $5.1 billion, and I'm thinking there's no way we could save $550 million. But somehow or another, we get lost in some of these testimonies, and I know that. But I will be supportive of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kubash. And I don't believe that 11% or 10% number, because I think it fails to recognize how much we do with other government entities, for example, and how much we leverage our projects already. But this does formalize the process of that. Councilmember Les.
Thank you, Mayor. I will reiterate the concerns that I voiced last week. It's no secret that I have been concerned about the generalities of this plan. And what most of us would agree is a 30,000-foot approach and review of what a plan is. But I've been pleased to see the process around the council table on how we have all sort of come to some point of agreement. And I think that's important. As I said last week, I'll be supporting this effort as much as anything to honor the hard work of the very many disparate communities that did come to the table and participate in this process, even though I'm very concerned about the generalities that exist out there. So with those generalities, we don't have specifics. We don't have quite formulated concrete guidelines as to prohibitions of sort of rogue activities, either by committees or rogue activities or interpretations by departments or any of those things. And yet, one of the concerns that I heard from those participants, those stakeholders that worked in this process, is that they avoided some of the harder questions in order to build consensus. Well, as we move forward, we're not going to be able to avoid the harder questions. And I, again, encourage and challenge those communities to help us address those harder questions, because we're not going to formalize any details as a city council on this general plan, whether it's this city council or any future city councils or mayors, without building consensus in the communities on each of those varying aspects. So, in the words of Tamara Bell, it's a start. Let's get started, and I am hopeful and excited about that process, as messy as the democracy and democratic process will ultimately be on this. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Robinson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly wanted to thank everyone for getting us to where we are. I think it's a very open and collaborative process. The meeting that Chief Bradford and I had with the legal department, I think, has yielded this, which I think, despite some different looking language on the surface, is essentially what he proffered, namely with a direction to head toward the charter, which is good, as well as a direction that the director of the planning department, with his oversight of the process, was pleased with in pointing toward the annual work plan. So yes, that could be some heavy lifting for all of us, and I think involvement of every district council member is going to be critical for how the next administration embraces this project. So as we're growing to be soon the third largest city in the country, I think this is a great framework and tool for us to have in place. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Cullen.